Hi, my name is Thomas Wiedling. The Wiedling Literary Agency is representing Russian authors worldwide. And here comes my personal pitch of the New Titles Rights List 2020. I would like to start with fiction. Alexei Fedyarov's Sfumato, Dead Birds Flying. Does the West really care how autocratic Russia treats its people? Well, a few sanctions, but they don't really have an impact. Live and let live seems the motto. This novel is a dark dystopia of Orwellian force, because the author does not invent a post-apocalyptic scenario, but takes today's political status quo and consistently develops it further into a very near future. So if in 10 years from now, you don't want to be scared to death, you should read this scaring novel now. Alexei Nikitin, Batami from the Face of Fire. Ukraine, 1942, Second World War. Imagine someone carrying the emaciated Kiev rabbi in a rucksack on a long walk across all war front lines to a safe hiding place. It is Ilya Goldinov, with his trained body, a well-known boxing champion at that time. Goldinov himself, as a spy on the orders of the KGB, is on a mission right into Kiev, occupied by the Nazis. So for him as a Jew, a deadly, senseless mission. Based on latest research and contrary to the documentation in the Yad Vashem archive, this book is the first to reveal the true story of Goldinov's fate and that of his family, his Ukrainian wife Felixa and their daughter Batami, who both survived. Dmitry Zakharov, Moscow Banksy. You think Putin's Kremlin is a closed power apparatus? Not even close. A Moscow Banksy uses provocative graffiti to lure the rival groups out from behind the Kremlin's walls. A bloody poker for power starts. All the sides pull out their weapons. Electoral manipulations, fake news, culture clash, staged street battles, ordered protest marches. In this fast-paced novel, Dmitry Zakharov, once a PR manager and spin doctor himself, gives a very close look behind the scenes of nowadays Putinocratism, fiction full of reality. Now, the narrative nonfiction titles, starting again with Alexei Fedyarov, who also wrote a nonfiction book, Man in Jail. In Putin's Russia, one can be sent to prison for years just for petty offenses, homosexual propaganda, participating in a demonstration. Fedyarov experienced it firsthand when he himself was imprisoned for alleged tax offenses. Today, his law firm gives voluntary help to such prisoners and their families. This startling book shows how the prison system under Putin again is systematically aiming towards breaking people. And at the same time, the author with this book gives his powerless fellow prisoners a voice. Fedyarov can listen with empathy, and he can write. Yevgeny Grishkovets, Vodka is much bigger. No cocktail book, no instructions on how to drink in a coma. Rather, self-ironic insights into the Russian soul, with a deep look into a glass filled to the brim with the national drink of the Russians, vodka. No praise for binge drinking as a tried and tested means of making people forget the worries of everyday Russian life. On the contrary, Yevgeny Grishkovets reminds himself, his compatriots, and of course all Westerners, why nobody in the world really knows how to drink vodka except the Russians, and what that is good for. Na zdrowie. And the second nonfiction title, Michael Wiesel, Pushkin, Boldino, Quarantine. Cholera is raging in Russia. Parts of the country have been locked down. Pushkin, Russia's most famous poet, is stuck in quarantine outside Moscow. It's the year 1830. For 3 months, he doesn't come back to Moscow, where the wedding with his fiancée was planned. Pushkin fears that the bride will die of the disease or jump off him. He's furious because the street police are taking his bride, but he is still not allowed through. He writes and writes his best works and letters because the postman is his only contact with the outside world. We read his letters with witty comments by Michael Wiesel. We experience the ups and downs of Pushkin's psyche in quarantine, chronologically dated, and we feel with Pushkin, whom we finally start to understand, thanks not only to our own experience with lockdowns during COVID, but thanks to this wonderful little book. And now the last section in the new titles list, science fiction and fantasy. Science fiction, Max Maximov. 5 smaller novels published so far, 3 of them available in full English. A rampant extraterrestrial weed threatens villages and cities with its poisonous tentacles. Only a person with a Down syndrome is immune to it. Can he root it out? And is this good man eradicating another evil altogether? And therefore, what we absolutely should know about the 4th and 5th dimensions. Or a care robot with a remorse. A disabled girl who rescues her professional killer father from prison. And all this on the day of judgment. Or will a flight to Mars secure the survival of our civilization? Who will write the script for such a mission? A benefactor of humanity or a vengeful psychopath? And why is the reader needed here as the last witness? With his timely novels, Max Maximov has become the shooting star of the new Russian science fiction. This was the Wiedling Literary Agency's New Titles Rice List 2020. Thanks for listening. And now a few other quick recommendations, bonus materials, so to say. Viktor Martinovich, Revolution. Revolution in Belarus. We see the population take to the streets of Minsk, hoping for freedom and self-empowerment through fair elections. Revolution by Viktor Martinovich. We read about a hero who is half seduced, half blackmailed by the mafia-like autocratic circles of power. When he is supposed to also renounce his great love for the sake of dear power, he forges a subversive plan. External resistance is futile, so he decides to overturn the system from within. A deal with the devil. And this devil doesn't sit anywhere else than in your own heart. Alexei Ivanov. 12 novels, 5 of them already in the cinemas. Another 5 are being filmed right now. Historical adventures, mystery thrillers, contemporary novels, a wide range of genres. But in every single book, a density of sights and sounds. His worlds feel vivid, hefty, utterly believable. There's flesh and bone and wood and stone and blood woven into a rich tapestry. And just one layer underneath, there is a theme that runs through all books. Ivanov is always about times of upheaval, turning points in the history of Russia, moments of crossing borders and drawing new borders, geographically, culturally, and of course, between people. And last but not least, 3 narrative nonfiction titles. Olga Gromova, Sugar Child. Flight and displacement, prison camp, hunger, poverty, humiliation, the misery of the Stalin era. How does a mother raise her little daughter under such adverse circumstances? How does a person manage to remain human in such inhuman times? Almost a whole human life had to pass before Stella, as a very old woman, began to tell about her own childhood to a neighbor who looked after her. And then with the help of this neighbor, the author Olga Gromova, Stella put her life story on paper. Sugar Child is in every sense a miracle, as Ludmila Ulitskaya notes in her foreword to this book. Pavel Basinski, Look at Me, The Secret Life of Lisa Diakonova. She was naked and she was dead. the very first female Russian student at the law faculty of the Sorbonne in Paris. As meticulously as an investigator, Basinski searched through the files that he happened to find in an archive, discovering one of the first early Russian feminists, Lisa Diakonova. She was ahead of her time and intelligent enough to understand that her reformatory ideas would fail at home in Russia. Her suicide can be read as a courageous but desperate sign to make herself heard. Thanks to this book, we can finally listen. Lev Danilkin. This author has not only written a fresh and quite anti-academic biography on Lenin, but also one on Yuri Gagarin, the first man in cosmos. Isn't cosmos trendy nowadays? It's a topic in the cinemas and on the shelves of the major fashion shops. Planetary pajamas, astronaut shirts, NASA jackets. Before cosmetic manufacturers bring the first space-compatible makeup onto the market for space tourists, it would be essential to read how the first astronaut of mankind prepared himself, Yuri Gagarin. Farmer's son, hero number one of the Russians' 20th century, first citizen of the universe. And even more important, what happened after he was back to Earth? And what would have happened if not his still mysterious and far too early death? This biography attempts to close all gaps. And herewith, I'm closing this small window of the agency to the virtual publishing world. Thank you.